Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Last time we were discussing the enormity of the system when the Big Bang took place and this universe was created, the colossal temperatures and the speed with which the space and time were created and expanded, and they continue to expand. And in that respect, we had also discussed about the precision. And now, with the human effort, they have reached to the calculation, some calculations. They are not the final calculations, but still some calculations towards precision that what happened, what was the situation at the time of attosecond. And attosecond, we say that it is 1 quintillion, that is 1 million trillion part of the second. So they have tried to calculate that what was the situation at that point. In my book, Know Your God, this precision of the situation, which has been, they have tried to measure, this is a unit of measurement of second that is not given there. I think that is there up to a billionth of a second, but now this is trillionth multiplied by million second. So this is a progress. When my book was written 25 years back, but this is the latest position of 2023 that they have tried to understand. This is just this is just a theory. They're just trying to understand that what would have happened when it was a Ratkan. There was a singularity, everything was joined together, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَفَتَقْنَهُمَا, and He peeled off each part, each thing separately, and that we'll see that how it happened from Harun Yahya. I'll quote from him in that regard. And it's the chaotic system is the open system. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He can intervene anytime. Now, today we are going into some other aspects of this system which took place at the time of Big Bang. The complex systems which originated at that time, as particularly the enormity of heat which was released from the singularity, and that means the energy which was released, and from that energy, the matter which was initially forming as the subparticles, and they call it hot soup, plasma, ma, and Allah's arsh, Allah's power was on that ma even in that chaotic situation, in that enormous situation. It was under His control at that time, even at that time. And the time Professor Dr. Stephen Hawking has raised a question that what were the boundary conditions? What was outside? What was beyond that? This was happening from within the singularity. The design was emerging from within the singularity and expanding, which is still expanding. Quran says, "Lamusumun," but he has raised certain questions that what was the boundary condition? What were the conditions outside the singularity? Where was the singularity placed? And wherever it was located, wherever it existed, what we can call it. Quran has made some pointations to that also. And there, the idea which we get from the explanations, references in the Quran is that it was perhaps an octagonal arrangement. 7 heavens, but the Quran says that then it was held together as by the 8 forces. Quran uses the phrase 8 forces. And then they were those forces were sustaining the arsh, they were sustaining the power matrix, the control tower, the control matrix of the entire model which was sustaining the seven heavens within. So Quran gives an indication, but the science has not yet reached that point. Dr. Stephen Hawking has raised these questions in his book, A Brief History of Time. These complex systems manifest surprising powers of self-organization. Such huge systems, so much energy and power unleashed, expanding in every direction, yet we find that everything, every particle, every subparticle was organized and there was a design. And till today, even after billions of years, that organization, that design which was given in that singularity, that is expanding, that is Lamusun, that is expanding. That is the Hubble's theory of expansion. That organization is expanding from from within that singularity. And all the forces came out one after the other as if they were coming out, the soldiers were coming out as troops were coming out in lines, in formation, in rows, they were arrayed together, they were coming out. This constitutes self-generation of amazing degree of orderliness. What is amazing in the universe? It is the orderliness. What does that mean? That everything is predictable. Everything in the universe is predictable. That if today the sun is at a certain point where the sun will be after 5 billion years, after 10 billion years. If the moon is today at certain point, tomorrow when it will rise, where will it be? So there is orderliness. Organization means there was an order. And this orderliness gives the prediction, predetermination. Furthermore, chaotic systems are unisolatable and sensitive that they can never be insulated from effects of environment in which they are located. What does that mean? That these systems together create a certain environment. At that time, it was an environment of plasma. It had a temperature. It had certain systems. Similarly, today we find in our part of the world where we are living, there are certain systems. There is ecosystem. There is environment. So these are, and this is, even at that time, it can be given a name, an environment, because it meets the definition of environment. What is environment? Environment is an organized system of physical features, physical phenomena, everything that is physical. That is environment. In our environment, we see that the wind systems, they are organized and they are linked with the ocean system, oceanic systems. They are linked with the seven spheres which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, as I have created 7 protections around the earth. And they are connected with each other. Earth is connected with the moon's gravitation, and moon is connected with the earth's gravitation. And they are working in an environment. Entire solar system is working in an environment. So even at that time, in that chaotic system, this organization, orderliness, this shows that there was an environment, because all the features, all the phenomena, they were physically organized. They constituted one environment and they worked together as one environment. As I've given the example, today the winds are working in unison with the oceans. They cannot work without the oceans. They bring monsoon at times, at the given time. We have interfered with the climate. We have interfered with the ozone zone. That is why There are climatic problems. Otherwise, everything is organized. Therefore, they must be discussed holistically. They cannot be discussed separately. The initial, in the periods of darkness, jihad, we find in the Egyptian civilization, in Mesopotamian civilization, in other civilizations, when they went away, completely away from the divine concepts, they developed their own theories. For example, whenever there was thunder, they thought that there is a separate god of thunder. When there was rain, they thought that there was a separate god of rain. When there was a wind, they thought that there was a separate god of wind. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if there were different gods, then they would not, there wouldn't have been one environment, one universe, and there would have been a chaos. All those gods would have run upon each other. They would have fought among themselves, and that is how they produced those theories at that time. If there was a thunder, they thought that the gods are fighting. Those creations and the heavens, they are fighting. The animals are fighting. In the concept of totemism, they thought that now the animals are fighting in the sky. The devils are fighting in the sky. The gods are fighting in the sky. Therefore, they must be discussed holistically. And that is why Quran has linked the message, the social life, the sociology with the physical sciences. We cannot understand Quran unless we understand the sciences. How will we understand Ash-Shams wal Qamar bi Usmanin if we don't understand science? How will we understand Quran if we don't understand Ash-Shamsu tajri li mustaqarrin laha? Sciences, physical sciences are connected in continuum with the social sciences. Surah Mulk, for example, take any surah, Surah Ar-Rahman. Their principles are connected, and the seven heavens, the laws of all the seven heavens are ultimately harmonized with each other, and they come under one law because it is given by one lawgiver. There's one lawgiver, and now the scientists are working on the theory of unification, the unification theory, the theory of Wahdat. That these four fundamental forces, the electromagnetic force, the gravitational force, the nuclear forces, they all are working together under one law. And that one law is given by the lawgiver, who is the one creator of the universe and who has harmonized these seven heavens under one law. This is the now challenge before the science, and the scientists are working on this unification theory. They sometimes call it the theory of everything, and they have come nearer to that. In the theory of strings, they have come nearer to understanding this, but still they are understanding. These are theories. And John Polkinghorne, he's a Christian scientist, an intellectual, a religious scholar. He has, I've quoted from him, but I've quoted him from him along with the verses from the Quran. Now, how it happens? The Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He is the originator of this system which came with the Big Bang. Whenever He thinks of anything, Shah, then He orders it be. When He decides it's Kada Amran, then He just orders Kun, and then it starts happening. Kun fayakun. It continues to happen. Fayakun. Fayakun is Muzara. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has explained this. Structures of heaven and the earth were themselves neither primal nor eternal. Now, when we say that they were originated, they were created, they were evolved, it means that they are not primal. The Greek philosophy, particularly Aristotle, they thought that matter is eternal. It always existed, the universe always existed, and the universe will always exist. This was their theory. But some of their scholars, they said, no, there is a creator, like Socrates. Plato said that there are two. One is the creator and other is the maintainer who maintains the universe. He called it demiurge. When Socrates said that no, there is one who is the creator and he himself is the maintainer, as we believe that Allah is the Lord himself. Uluhiyat and Rububiyat, there is Vadaniyat. When Socrates presented this concept, they thought that he is corrupting our religion. Now he is taking us away from our gods. They had God for everything separately. They charged him, they tried him, they gave him a sentence of death that he had to be given this punishment of death by poison, and he accepted it. He was advised that if he runs away, he can run away, or he just says, no, I don't believe in this. But he said, no, I will accept this sentence because if I die, my concept will live. It will continue. And he didn't agree with even with his friends like Crito and others, and he continued. And he was killed by poisoning. These are the creations, and all these creations are the creation of Allah's own will, Shah, and his design as he plans. وَإِذَا قَضَى أَمْرًا, he designs them finally. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I created them 7 heavens. And he gives the sciences, pointation toward the science also, that I created it in 6 days. And he tells that during those 6 days, he has further divided it. During first 2 days, the globes were formed. These from the nebula, from the plasma, from the gaseous material, the globes, the celestial objects, they were formed and they were arranged. They were placed in their positions. Well, for example, for Earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Dahaha, I placed it in a proper shape and place at what place it should be placed. And then Ravasi, then the gravitational forces like ropes. They were joined together, they're held together, they were held together with these Ravasi, with these ropes of gravitational forces. And then in the next 4 days, they cooled off. They cooled off to the extent that subparticles becoming particles, becoming atoms, forming substances, and with that speed, when they were swerving, they were rotating, they were moving, they mixed together to form the material like Earth. If this process would not have taken place within those first 2 days, making the globes, and the next 4 days, mixing together the material, then this earth which we find in fine mixing on the earth as turabun or as clay, as teen when it is mixed with water, organic material, or the same earth which we find at the moon, the same earth which we find at the Mars. This earth would not have this earthen material, these substances which are being created, they would not have mixed together in this fine ratio that it became earthen material. This all happened within 6 days total. 2 days forming the globes and 4 days mixing up the material, and then the cooling of process started. That continued. It was right from the beginning. That continued. If the materials had cooled off, and then the earth and these globes and this earth was materials had to be mixed, they could not be mixed. Once they were, for example, if the iron had cooled off first, the metals had cooled off first, and the other materials magnesium had cooled off, and the sodium had cooled off when it was being formed separately, then how the mixing would take place. Some people interpret that the iron was sent up from above afterwards. This iron and all other metals, they were created in sequence, and as they were being created, they were being mixed as the temperature was falling down. Before the temperatures fall down after 4 days, 6 days, to the point that after that the mixing could not take place. Before that, all those materials were, while they were forming, they were mixing also at the same time. Those materials are mixing at the same time. That is why we find, for example, we need iron for spinach. If you plant spinach, if you plant apple, it needs iron. You plant in California, you plant in Quetta, you plant in Egypt, it will come up. It gets iron from the earth, which is already mixed up during those 6 days. During those 6 days. That ayat says when the hadith came, that is a separate different interpretation. That the strength, the law of adjudication, mizan, was sent along with the force that it has to be. It has hadith, it has strength. It can only be implemented with hadith. Hidadun is the gatekeeper, who takes care of, who protects the law, who protects the order, who protects the system. Hidadun is from the same root. So anyway, that is not the point here for discussion. The point is that every material which was created at that time, it was simultaneously being mixed together, so that we find the same, almost same mixture of earth, on moon, on sun, on different planets, and even outside the solar system on different planets. When they cooled off, we find that the same material had mixed up earlier at that time. Now there are different translations. These translations are before you. I will not go into these different translations, but this one point I'll point out to this. In Surah Mulk, it says that you see the sky with your naked eye. You can't see clearly. You will feel as if your eyes are returning, seeing something which is hazy, which is not clear. So strengthen your vision. Now, instead of Ra, use Basarat, use your intellect also, use data also. Examine this data and you strengthen your vision. For example, use binoculars, strengthen make these binoculars stronger, add more power, karatan, double them, redouble them, go on increasing the power, and then the clarity, you can see things with clarity. You will find more data and you can analyze it. And here you can use your basarat also, not only Ra, but basarat also. Surah Mulk. And where it says that, do you find any fault? Do you find any fissure? The answer we usually give, no, there can't be any fissure. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is leaving it at this question. Then look again, yet again, your sight will return unto you, weakened and dim. As you go towards these fissures, your sight will be dimmed, and the point will come when your sight will not return. And that is the point of the black hole. This is just an effort to understand. You may have a different understanding. Scientists may have a different understanding. These are certain theories, and we are just trying to understand what this statement could be. That do you find any fark when you look at these stars? Yes, we find a lot of fark. The Bruj are different, stars are different, arrangements are different. And there are certain points where we find that our eyes, our vision is blurred. At certain points, we find the vision is very weak. We can't get any image and then disappears. We can't find it. Surah Mulk, try to understand. But here I've raised it such as just as a question. Does this fissure refer to the black hole? This is just a question. I'm not saying it definitely, but it could be a reference to the black hole. Does it also refer to the phenomenon that light is absorbed? Because here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the light. Look again, and yet again, your sight will return unto you weakened and dim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about these phenomena of light, reflection of light. Does it refer to the phenomenon that light is absorbed, exhausted, doesn't return, can't reflect from or escape from the black hole? We can't understand Quran, whole of Quran, the depth of Quran, the vastness of Quran, the levels of understanding of Quran if we don't try to understand science. Science helps to understand Quran. Quran has the facts. Science has theories. They keep on changing. But don't translate the Quran in the word of the theory. Theories will be changing, but they help in understanding the Quran and they help in understanding the improvement in the standard of life on the earth of human beings. Now, this I have quoted from Dr. Nur Baki. He's a Turkish scholar. Says that harmony also implies structural variation. When Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I have created 7 heavens in harmony and tebaka. 7 and every heaven has been given its own amr, own command, own law. But all of them are in harmony. What does that mean? And the number for if the 7 heavens were the same structure, if all the 7 heavens were the same structure, same size, same dimensions, same law, then Allah, so there was no need to say that they are in harmony. Then it would have been they are just the same. They are one. They are 7 segments of one thing. But here, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the harmony and the order, tebaka, it means they are for different structures and different laws are working, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, that I have put a separate law, amr, command, in every heaven, every sky. There would be no sense in mentioning that they are in conformity. This word, that they are in conformity, they are in harmony, shows these are different 7 heavens, separate, yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them in order. Sun and moon are different, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has yet created them in harmony. They are placed in conformity with each other. They are working in unison with each other. They are working under certain laws which governs them. In physical terms, this conformity implies that these fields of existence, fields of planes, the gravitational fields, for example, electromagnetic fields, for example, with different magnetic potentials, take an congruent values at their boundary points. Now, this is very important. Dr. Stephen Hawking also had said this, that although these 7 heavens, Nur Baki is trying to explain this, that 7 heavens, they are different structures, very huge structures, millions of light years in width. Such 7 systems, huge systems with different laws within them, different laws working, but yet at the joining points where they are congruent, when they are tabaka, when they are interacting with each other at those boundary conditions, at their points of interaction, they are congruent. They have congruent values, values of laws, that they're at the boundary points, they are in harmony. They don't collide. They don't contradict. They don't contrast. They are working in harmony. Look at the enormity of the system, we can't even imagine. And sometimes when scientists cannot explain, this is a chaotic system. It's an enormous system. We can't even describe. We cannot even chart. We cannot make a map. We can just try to find the vocabulary to explain it. Such an enormous system which came from Ratkan Fataknahuma. The important thing is the congruity. Now we have moving towards further fineness. That there's an order in each heaven. There is a system in each heaven. There is an organization in each heaven. Now the question has come that then with these 7 heavens come together, Devaka, there is a congruity, there's a conformity within these 7 laws also. That is why now scientists are working on this, that there is one law. And the science is now bringing the scientists to one point, that there is one creator, Allah, the creator. And he is the Lord who is maintaining with these forces. Amantu billah wa malaikatihi, his forces. And his forces, malaikatihi, are working in congruity. And they have even been made musakhar to the human being. That human being, if the strange point about the universe, they say, is the strange thing in the universe is that it is understandable. It has been made understandable by the human being. The human being has been given such an enormous cognition, intellect, intelligence, such a cognition that he can understand. The strange thing is that this enormity of the universe is understandable, and the human being has been given this ikram that he can understand it. This is the enormity of the system and the enormity of the cognition which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. He has made it musakhar. He has made it musakhar for the human being, and at the same time, he has made them congruent, tabaka, fitting each other. And this also points out tabaka, seriality, that the 2 comes after 1, 3 comes after 2, 4 comes after 3. The seriality. It's not that the things are just thrown, and anything is placed anywhere. Universe is written. Universe is written in other. There is a seriality in the other. 1, 2, 3, 4. For example, DNA is in seriality. If the seriality is changed, the language changes. The language of the DNA changes. If the ATCG is changed, the 4 amino acids are changed. Their order is changed from AT to TA. The language of the DNA changes. The language of the universe will change if the arrangement of this seriality of the heavens is changed. In one word, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained these things. They are created tabaka and accord. They are in harmony. The law which has been placed in them, each law is controlling, making them in accord, placing them in order, and further, there is a congruity of the laws even, that these laws don't contradict each other. Electromagnetic force and gravitational force, they work in harmony. The nuclear forces, along with these forces, they work in harmony together for the universe. Malaikatihi. They are the managing forces of the universe between the magnetic fields of the sky. Sky, heaven are the seven heavens, universe are the megaverse. The structure of atom is sometimes explained as an analogy to solar system. This is just an example, just to explain that as we find that in the atom, the positrons, the electrons, the neutron, they are all placed in orbits. The neutron, the proton at the center, forming the nucleus, and others revolving in each one is revolving, each thing is revolving in its own orbit. Fi falakin yasbahun, as in the solar system, as in the universe, as in the galaxy, every object is yusabbihun. They are floating, they are moving in the given orbit, fi falak, in the given orbit. And that example is the atom, that every electron, every positron is moving in the given orbit. They can, when they come to join together, it is the phenomenon of their interaction from those or within those orbits, making bonds, coming together to join. And when they change the orbit, from one orbit to other, there's change of energy. What is that? That's change of level. From one orbit to the other, there's change of energy. Change of level means the change of level of the orbit means change of energy. And when it is broken, and the atom is broken, that energy is released. And here it is explained with an analogy that every object which is placed in an orbit, and the difference between the orbits is the difference of the level of energy. So what does that mean? That the entire universe, this enormous universe, is still there is energy in those orbits. The energy was converted into matter, it became matter, but still there is energy, energy between the levels. And then scientists now say that there's energy and they call it dark energy, that they are not able to detect it. But still they think that the theories show, that the working of the universe show that there is even dark energy, like black holes. There is energy, and that is called black energy. In fact, orbitals, shells of electrons are the precisely defined energy levels. Tebaka, this one word, this is the explanation of the one word that seven heavens are placed. Tebaka. Quran is not in contradiction with science. Quran is eternal. Science helps to understand Quran, and it helps to create easiness in the life of the human beings on this earth, solve the problems of human beings. That is, electron exists in one of them only if it has the proper energy surrounding nucleus. Another concept related to plurality of heavens, that seven heavens are seven, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Now science calls it plurality of heavens. In the theory of megaverse, in the theory of strings, which is one of the latest theories, modern theories, and each string, each sky, each heaven, each is like a membrane. They call it a membrane, and as in short form, they call it brain. B-R-A-N-E, brain. B-R-A-N-E, brain. Short form of membrane. They call it a membrane. But this membrane or brain is not the thin membrane as we can think. It is millions of light years thick. Why? Such a big universe. And these seven disks form the universe, the megaverse. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that all these 7 discs, which are billions of light years in length and breadth, and all together they will be under my control. When I will again roll them back, natvi katai is sijil, like the scroll. Allah has so much power. We can't even imagine, we can't even explain. Plurality of heavens is the multiplicity of dimensions. In Surah Fatir, Al-Fatir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I create things in different ijnatan, dimensions. 2, 3, 4, 5, many. There's no limit to the creation of things in different dimensions or many dimensions. And now the sciences are accepting it. The plurality theory is accepting it, that there is a multiplicity of dimensions, which Quran tells us. So there's no contradiction. It is considered that there are different spaces, planes of existence, which means different heavens, 7 heavens, samawat, of different dimensions. Each of the samawat has different dimensions. And that is why the question of congruity had to come up, that there are these 7 heavens are of different dimensions and different laws. And in one word, Quran is explaining it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I have created them tabaka, that they are congruent at the points of interaction. There is seriality, there is order, there is harmony. In one word, everything has been explained about this model in different heavens. And this, I'm referring Dr. Noor Baki here and the verses also. Despite specialization of scientific research, amateurs are still making valuable contributions to science. If you look at the history of science, history of inventions, history of discoveries. For example, Levi Shoemaker, they discovered a planet, an object like a planet, and an object of the size of the earth, which was never seen before. When they found it, 2 scientists, they were amateurs, sky watchers, and they reported that we have seen one object. They consulted each other first. They said that this is an object. This object is moving towards the Mars. Then the scientists put their binoculars, their telescopes. The NASA put their telescopes and they started watching it, and they found that it is moving towards the Mars. And they calculated that it will hit the Mars on such and such date at such and such time. And they predicted that if it hits the Mars, the object like the Earth, of the size of this Earth, of the weight and mass of this Earth, hits the Mars, it will break it. It will break itself and it will break the Mars. And if the Mars is broken in the solar system, then the entire solar system might be broken. And they were preparing that this could be the last day. But then while they were watching, they found that with the speed with which it was moving, it took days to reach there. It took time to reach there. While it was moving with speed, in Surah Mulk, we find that if something leaves the orbit, it becomes a rajim, like shaitan. It becomes rajim. And when it becomes rajim, then the flame of fire kills it, destroys it. So that Earth, which was moving with the object like the Earth, was moving towards the Mars with that speed, it broke itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I've created protections in the system in Surah Mulk, it tells, which protect the entire system. And after that, it starts talking about the sociology. The physical sciences are in continuum with the laws of the physical sciences are in continuum with the social sciences. That is why we call them laws of nature. That if somebody becomes rajim, a human being, a jinn, anybody who leaves the assigned duty, the assigned features, the assigned phenomena, if he rebels against the laws of nature, if he rebels against the sunnat Allah, if he rebels against the laws of nature which are given by Allah, he becomes rajim, he will be destroyed. He will have azab, and here in Surah word azab is used, there will be azab here and there will be azab in the hereafter. There will be destruction. So here, the main point which I want to make it, that why in Surah Mulk, why in Surah Fajr, why in Surah Ar-Rahman, why in so many surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking, come out of your hujra. He's asking our mullahs and priests. He doesn't like it. Come out of your hujra. Wal fajr kan mashuda. The fajr is worth watching. The sky is worth watching at night. Stand up and see how the sky, the sheet of stars is moving every night in different way. Why it is moving differently. And yet, since billions of years, you find the same formation of constellations, Buruj. Why Shaf'a and Walwat? Why the night of 12 hours in one hemisphere, Watr? And why the night of 24 hours, Shaf'a? Two hemispheres, east and west. And you make a group. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I'm not giving you the analytics, la option. I'm not giving you the chart, the taqsim. You make the taqsim, you study. For example, make a group of 10 nights, 10 Watr nights, or 10 Shafar nights, or 10 nights Shafar Watr. And then look at the sky, how the sheet of stars is moving at night, and why during the later part of the night they disappear. All these things are being pointed out. And to whom? These are not being pointed out only to Einstein, to Newton, to Planck, to Plato, to Aristotle, to Socrates, to those people who were completely ummiyun, ummiyin. Ummi means the one to whom the wahi had not come before that. It does not mean illiterate. It means the person who did not have this information, this Naba, the Nabi had not come there. They had no information. Those ummiyun in the desert, in the mountains, they started understanding Quran. Ash-Shamsu tajri li mustaqarrin laha. They didn't go to any Harvard University or any Oxford University to get a degree to understand Quran. Quran does not need a degree. It needs ghor, fikr, tafakkur, tawakul, tazakkur, cognition, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. That he can understand the universe. Universe is understandable. And for that understanding, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the cognition to the human being. And that is one of the most important features of human evolution, that human being was given the emotional intelligence, and in that the cognition. And then the entire universe was made musakhar to him. So here, for example, in Surah Mulk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to the amateurs, to those raw sky watchers. Be the sky watcher. How many sky watchers there are in the world today? There's a record. You put it in Wikipedia, put it in Chat GPT. There are thousands and thousands of people around the world who by their own habit or by their own hobby, they are sky watchers. They are environmental watchers. They are bird watchers. For example, when I was Secretary Wildlife, we had observatories. For example, in Thatta, in Sindh, there people used to come. We had made observatories and we had made rest houses there. They are still there on Kinjar Lake, on Haliji Lake. Haliji Lake is the man-made lake. It's not natural lake, and we have made observatories. People would stay there comfortably, and at night from those glass houses, particularly on the 14th night of the full moon, they would watch how the crocodile comes out, how the turtle comes out, how the birds land when it is the season. Environmental watchers, they're amateur watchers. Similarly, they're sky watchers. I tried my best, but I couldn't find. Maybe you conduct your own research. Among those sky watchers today in the world, I couldn't find, mainly from their names or from their data, there's none of the Muslims, sky watchers. And Quran is all the time asking. And we are reading it every day. But we are reading it for dua, we are reading it for sawab, we are reading it for Khatmul Quran, but we are not reading it for understanding. Even the amateurs who don't have any degree, out of their hobby, they are the sky watchers. And in Surah Mulk, in many surah, Allah is talking to the amateurs. Look at the sky. Our salat system has been linked with watching the sky. When the sun is rising, when the moon is rising, when the sun is setting. But we are not yet sky watchers. We are not those amateur sky watchers. We have left the Quran to some the Pandits, so they will understand. They will explain. During scientific revolution of 17th century, scientists were largely men of private means. Who was Ibn Sina before that? These are the observations about 7th century. But we go back. Who was Al-Razi? Who was Al-Kindi? Were they employed scientists of the departments of sciences, physiology, physics? They were men of, who was Darwin? Man of private means, making collections, getting donations, getting a boat, getting help from the government also. They were means of private means. They were persons of private means, but they had a hobby. They had a habit of watching skies, watching environment, watching birds, watching nature. We don't come out of the room. And even when we are out of the house, we don't look around. We don't look around at the environment. We look at buildings, we look at roads, we look at Times Square, we look at lights. We don't look at the phenomenon of nature. Who persuaded their interest in natural philosophy. We have become enemies of nature. We violate laws of nature. We don't study natural history. We don't study natural philosophy. We don't study laws of nature. There's difference between laws of nature and natural law. These are two different things. I'm talking about laws of nature, sunnatullah, for their own edification, for their own habits, for their own satisfaction, for their own hobbies. We don't have such hobbies. How many of our children have these hobbies? In our families, we get toys for the children. We give them toys with which they play within the home, within the room. But how many they actually come out to watch the sky, the rivers, the birds, the phenomena? Only in the past century or two, the 20th century or maybe 19th century, has it become possible to make a living from investigating the working of nature. The scientists have started getting jobs officially. They have been employed since about last 2 centuries. Otherwise, before that, all the science which has emerged, it is from the amateurs, from those to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing in the Quran. Look at the sky. Modern science was built on the work of amateurs. This is a claim. Modern science is made on the foundation provided by the amateurs, like the amateurs from the Muslim world in the earlier centuries, and now up to the 19th century, and after that, along with the amateurs who are still there, people have habits and hobbies. The science is now patronized by the governments for their own benefit. Science is increasingly becoming specialized and compartmentalized. Physics is becoming separate from chemistry, but still they have a connection, physical chemistry. Biology and chemistry are becoming separate, but there is a connection, there is biochemistry. Domains of experts who know more and more about less and less. Now scientists know more and more about less and less. What does that mean? The scientists know more about the subparticle, within the subparticle, within the frequency. That is lesser and lesser and lesser, and they know more and more about it. Same is the case with biology. Now the specialist knows more about the eye instead of the whole human body. The specialist knows more about the nose than about the eye. One doctor knows about eye and the other doctor knows about eye, but not the whole body. But the time is coming when the doctor will know more about the left nostril of the nose, and the other doctor will know more about the right nostril of the nose. Right, left eye, there will be different specialists. The science is developing in this way. Now, I leave it here. Next time, inshallah, we will continue with this, that the Quran is repeatedly inviting amateurs. Quran is addressing amateurs. Besides ulul albab, Quran is addressing amateurs. Today is 3rd, so I think it will be 10. I'm just putting the date 10 so that I remember at that time. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzat amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Thank you very much.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وبطاعتك عن معصيتك وفضلك عن من سواك. اللهم فضلك ورحمتك على كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us, shower us with your blessings, increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves guarded from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. Oh Allah, we have our son Ma'raj, our daughter Aishawani, and our brother Osmani. Oh Allah, grant all of them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, we ask you with every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.